the worst jump he had ever taken. Today's jump, a little different. He came down in tandem with another parachutist after preparing for 6 months with a physical trainer so he could relive that day. Rice flew down with the stars and stripes fluttering beneath him, landed to a wave of applause from a crowd thousands strong gathered to watch this aerial display.
Great. Beautiful drive, beautiful jump, beautiful flight. Everything was perfect.
That is amazing. And other parachutists jumped with World War II souvenirs, some of which had been worn by their grandfathers in battle.
That is just incredible.
3:50 a.m. CBS will have special coverage. You want to tune in for that if you can on CBS tomorrow morning, bright and early, to commemorate D-Day plus 75 years.
That'll do it for us tonight at 4, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. News 3 Now at 5 starts right now.
And right now at 5, Wisconsin's Republican-controlled Senate has passed 4 abortion bills. We'll tell you what the steps are next for those measures.
What Wisconsin is doing to make sure military wives and husbands have jobs in the Badger State.
From the Channel3000.com Alert Center, this is News 3 Now at 5.
And thanks for staying with News 3 Now. A controversial set of abortion bills making their way to the governor's desk.
After passing through the Republican-controlled state Senate on a 17-14 vote, our Keely Arthur is here now with what happened at the state capitol today. Keely?
Well, that's right. Evers is expected to
veto these bills, the most controversial of them all, the Born Alive bill, which addresses the rare occurrence in which a baby is born alive during an attempted abortion. Republicans and Democrats sparred over that bill today, which, if passed, would impose criminal penalties on doctors who fail to give medical care to such babies. Organizations representing physicians, along with Democratic opponents, say existing laws already provide protections to healthy newborns under any circumstances. But Republicans argue stronger protections are needed.
Deciding not to let a vulnerable, defenseless newborn die, it's not anti-abortion, it's anti-murder.
It is the same smokescreen that the majority party uses to distract from their true agenda, which is to push abortion out of reach.
The bill passed on a 17-14 vote with all Democrats against and all Republicans in support, except Senator Andre Jacques, who wanted the measure to go further and allow for the mother to face felony charges. Evers is expected to veto these bills within days. Republicans don't have enough votes to override a veto.
All right, Keely Arthur reporting that. Keely, thank you. The Sauk Prairie Police Department has released the preliminary autopsy results from a death investigation in Sauk City. On Sunday, officers were called to a home. This was in the 900 block of Monroe Street there for a welfare check. 88-year-old Margaret Foss and her son, 63-year-old David Foss, were found dead in that home. Police say David likely died from natural causes a few days earlier before Margaret was found. David was Margaret's primary caregiver, and police believe she was unable to care for herself once he passed away.
The Janesville Police Department is looking for 2 men wanted in connection to an armed robbery early this morning. Officers were called to an apartment in the 400 block of West Milwaukee Street a little after 1 a.m. The victim told police 2 men were brought to his apartment by a female acquaintance. The victim said the men displayed a gun while inside the apartment and demanded money. Police say one of the men hit the victim in the head with the gun, which ended up discharging, but no one was hit by the bullet. The victim was taken to the hospital for cuts he received during the attack. 2
male teenagers fled from a damaged and stolen SUV after one of the teens hit a car on South Gammon Road. This was yesterday afternoon. Police say they were driving this SUV that was listed as stolen out of Cottage Grove. Witnesses say they saw the driver and passenger take off on Park Ridge Drive. Later, an officer found the vehicle with its doors open, still running, stopped in a traffic lane. There were no injuries from this incident, but the victim's car ended up on a nearby lawn.
Law enforcement officers shot and wounded a man who barricaded himself inside a van with a woman on Interstate 94 on an overpass in Waukesha County. Officials say the standoff began yesterday afternoon after deputies joined a pursuit of a suspected stolen vehicle. The man called dispatchers and said he was holding the woman hostage. After 5 hours of negotiations, tactical officers sent gas into the van and the man fled with a gun pointed at the woman. 2 officers fired, critically wounding him. The woman fled, struggled with officers, and stabbed and wounded a police dog before she was arrested.
All right, let's get your first alert forecast now. Meteorologist Dana Fulton joining us on a warm day. She looks a lot like Dave Caulfield today, though.
We do have a similar color, like tie and dress.
She's better looking, Dave.
Yeah, well, you know, it's beauty's in the eye of the beholder. So, but what we can say about today's weather is it is beautiful, no matter what eye of the beholder that you possess, because temperatures are in the low 80s. It feels like summer outside. North wind at 6 miles per hour. Dew points a little bit high in the low 60s, but still, it's a pretty typical summer day across southern Wisconsin, and temperatures for many of us have reached the low 80s. Day planner, as we head into the rest of this evening, temperatures will fall into the 70s with partly cloudy skies. Could be some patchy fog overnight, but I think the dry weather will continue. I'll let you know when we'll have to break out those umbrellas again in your first alert forecast in just a few minutes.
All right, Dave, thank you. Today is Heat Awareness Day. Before the weather reaches true summer temperatures, Ready Wisconsin wants you to be aware of the dangers that can potentially bring. Last year, preliminary numbers show 5 people in Wisconsin died because of a heat-related illness. That's something like heat exhaustion or heat stroke. Symptoms of heat exhaustion include heavy sweating, weakness, cold, pale, and clammy skin, a weak pulse, and fainting or vomiting. If you or someone that you're with starts experiencing any of these symptoms, you should move to a cooler location and drink fluids. Heat stroke symptoms are a high body temperature, a headache, hot red skin or moist skin, a rapid and strong pulse, and possible unconsciousness. If this happens, call 911 and move them to a cooler location, but don't give them fluids in this situation. Ready Wisconsin says the real danger comes when you and your kids leave your kids in the car.
I mean, it is a frequent source of tragedy where individuals are like, I was just running into the store for 5 minutes. Well, in that 5 minutes on a 90-degree day, it can turn to fatal temperatures inside of a vehicle very quickly.
And experts say make sure you check in with neighbors and watch for excessive heat watches, warnings, and advisories this summer.
A life in the military can mean a lot of moving, which can make it difficult for wives and husbands to build a resume.
And that's why Wisconsin is becoming the first military spouse economic empowerment zone in the country. Our Danica Lewis is here to explain more about what that means. Danica?
Susan and Eric, certainly a mouthful. And while Wisconsin's overall unemployment rate is at a record low, about a quarter of military spouses across America do not have jobs. And in an effort to bring more active members and veterans here, the state's leading the way in making sure those families know they're just as much of a priority as the ones serving.
They always miss him when he's not around.
Erin Lang is working hard to keep the family together, which is really hard when her 10-year-old daughter and 11-year-old son are 2,000 miles away from Dad.
We, FaceTime, ballet recitals, and school concerts, and, my son playing his viola all the time.
Reese Lang is currently stationed at Camp Pendleton in California. It's work Erin doesn't take lightly. As someone who served herself right out of high school, some of the few, the proud, deployed with Operation Iraqi Freedom.
Almost like I lost a family that I had, because in the military, in the Marine Corps, everyone's, your brothers, your sisters, you're supportive of each other, and you move away, and all the friends, all the family that you've had for the last 4 years, you lose all contact with them.
It wasn't the only first.
I had never even filled out a resume or an application anywhere before. I was really starting from scratch and needed someone to give me direction on what is a corporate world looking for.
And just to see the smiles on their face when they can finally connect with somebody is really impactful.
Rebecca DeShane is part of a new state effort that's making sure employers know military spouses bring valuable skills to their teams. But the separation between significant others could require flexibility.
Really understanding what they went through, understanding those amazing leadership skills.
It's something Carolyn Moe says Logistics Health Incorporated has already realized.
Because they're moving around so much, it's hard to stay with one employer.
The La Crosse-based company coordinates medical care for veterans and makes it a point to hire people like Erin.
I think it's going to really bring awareness to companies and employers, the value that a military spouse can bring to a company.
To be able to lead the nation in how we support veterans through transitions and their families is awesome.
Erin and the kids still have a year before Reese comes home, but while he's so far away, She knows there are people close by supporting her.
Employees are treated more like family than like coworkers.
So what makes outreach to military spouses more difficult here in Wisconsin is simply the fact that there aren't a ton of major bases where families are concentrated. So the hope of this news designation for the state will consolidate all resources and get to them to the husbands, the wives, and the children who need them.
Danica, thank you.
Sure thing.
Some Republican senators are proposing tapping $133 million in budget reserves to pay for repairs to county and town roads. State Republicans say the plan sends $1 million to each of the 72 counties in the state and provides $1,000 for every mile of town roads. With 61,600 town miles in the state, this brings our total proposal to $133.6 million.
We are asking counties and towns to identify maintenance and construction projects on roads and bridges to apply these funds. They cannot use these funds to buy vehicles, plow snow, or build buildings. These funds are for roads, pure and simple.
Now, the senators who announced the plan say they have no agreement with Assembly Republicans on this deal. Governor Evers has said he will raise the gas tax to pay for roads, but Senate Majority Leader Scott Fitzgerald has said in the past that he does not support that idea. Joint Finance will vote on road funding tomorrow.
In more local news, after almost 4 decades, a teacher who started a schooling program at the Dane County Jail is retiring. 23 years ago, a legislative change required school districts to provide services to youth in adult jail settings. Deb Anderson, or Teacher Deb as she's known, decided to get involved. She designed a high school within the Dane County Jail. Anderson has been teaching for the past 37 years, and today she is officially retired.
I know that I certainly will work or volunteer or do things. Like Dave said, it's a calling, and I think that there's a ministry of presence with teachers, and I hope to continue somewhere, somehow.
Before teaching in the Dane County Jail, Deb taught students at La Follette High School.
Green Bay Packers are heading north of the border. They'll play an exhibition game against the Raiders at IG Field in Winnipeg, Manitoba. IG Field, the home of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, which is a pro-Canadian football team. Game time set for 7 p.m. on August 22nd. It'll be televised nationally in Canada and on the Packers statewide television network. More to come on News 3 Now at 5. Up next, an Ohio doctor facing 25 counts of murder, what prosecutors say happened.
President Trump is joining world leaders ahead of the 75th anniversary of D-Day. We'll have the very latest from England.
And a look at midweek trading on Wall Street. The Dow up more than 207 points. The Nasdaq added 48. The S&P up almost 23. We'll be right back. A doctor in Ohio faces a judge on 25 counts of murder today.
Dr. William Husel pleaded not guilty to the charges. Prosecutors say the 43-year-old critical care doctor deliberately ordered lethal doses of pain medications, including fentanyl, for nearly 24 patients over several years while he worked for Mount Carmel Health System.
The expert witnesses we talked to said with certainty that a dosage at that level could not support any legitimate medical purpose, and a dosage at that level would cause someone's death.
Husel's lawyer says his client did not intend to kill patients. He asked for a lower bail after a judge set bail at $1 million. An internal investigation by the hospital showed at least 5 of the victims were severely ill, but could have improved with proper treatment.
President Trump joined Queen Elizabeth and world leaders on the southern coast of England on the eve of the 75th anniversary of D-Day. 75 years ago, American soldiers and their allies prepared to invade France. Troops risked it all to rescue Europe from Nazi Germany. 16 world leaders from every country involved in D-Day paid their respects today. President Trump recited the prayer Franklin Delano Roosevelt gave as troops hit the beaches of Normandy. Memories of that day are still raw for some soldiers.
I was terrified. I think everyone was. You don't show it, but it's there. I look back on it as a big part of my life. It changed me in a way. But I was just a small part in a very big machine.
Next for the president is a stopover in Ireland before attending D-Day ceremonies in Normandy in France tomorrow. And CBS News will have special D-Day coverage early tomorrow morning, and that will include the commemorative program and President Trump's live address from Normandy. You can watch it starting at 3:50 a.m., followed by News 3 Now this morning.
The 2020 Democratic presidential candidates are weeks away from their first primary debate, and more candidates are criticizing the current frontrunner. Former Vice President Joe Biden ignored questions about his stance on a decades-old abortion rule known as the Hyde Amendment, which prohibits federal funding for abortion with the exceptions of the mother's life, rape, or incest. Democrats, including several of Biden's 2020 rivals, posted tweets in opposition to the Hyde Amendment and even called for its repeal.
Our Democratic candidates should come down 100% on the side of a constitutionally protected woman's right to choose.
Democrats will face off in their first primary debate at the end of the month in Miami, which comes just a week after President Trump kicks off his re-election bid in Orlando.
All right, let's get a look at your first alert weather now. Meteorologist Dave Caulfield joining us now on our first alert forecast. Dave, we got it right.
Yeah, we got it. Second time around is the charm. And we had many chances to get weather like this over the last couple of months, and finally it looks like the typical early June summer-ish weather is setting up across southern Wisconsin. Maybe late spring, but I mean semantics on that one. Visible cloud track is showing the decreasing cloud trend. Remember, we had those powerful thunderstorms roll through early this morning, dropping some pretty heavy rain totals in some spots and really lighting up the sky with that lightning. And we can actually see some fog forming on the lake, and right now trying to move into Milwaukee. So visibilities in Milwaukee are really reduced, but everywhere else you wouldn't be able to tell because it's really pleasant outside with plenty of sunshine. Doppler track is showing pretty quiet conditions across much of Wisconsin. The exception, some thunderstorms trying to form closer to Green Bay. I don't think those will visit southern Wisconsin anytime soon. In fact, I think the dry weather will finally stick around for an extended stretch. We have dry weather on the way for tomorrow, Friday, and into Saturday. 4 storm chances come back on Sunday. So in Platteville on our Queen Bee Radio Skycam, dry weather there. You get dry weather. You get dry weather. Everybody gets dry weather in this scenario on the WISC-TV Skycam. Just a few fair weather clouds there. The almanac for today's high of 81 degrees is about 5 degrees above normal for this time of year, and I think temperatures will stay just a hair above normal over the next couple of days. So 82 the high in Janesville and Monroe. The warm spots, Mineral Point and Bosqueville, 86 degrees today, and temperatures are pretty close to their daytime highs right now across southern Wisconsin. As I mentioned, those temperatures are staying in the upper 70s and lower 80s as we head into the next week to 10 days. Really no big cold stretches or warm stretches. We're kind of near normal, the atmosphere behaving for once. How about that? It's almost too good to be true outside. Tonight, temperatures will be in the upper 50s. Overnight, partly cloudy, some patchy fog possible. Already starting to see some of that fog set up in Milwaukee. On future track, we noticed that the clouds building in for the start of tomorrow. That's that fog I was talking about, or at least the possibility. But that sunshine does return on Thursday afternoon with highs in the upper 70s. And we're in the 70s once again as we head into Friday, with more sunshine on the way. Your 10-day forecast showing the showers and thunderstorms returning by the time we get to Sunday. The temperatures won't be all that cool and variably cloudy skies, so it won't be raining the entire day. We could see some additional showers and thunderstorms early on Monday, and then for late on Tuesday into Wednesday before the 80s return by the start of next weekend. Something about Friday's temperatures in the 80s. We are talking about our first alert traffic update right now, taking a look at Fish Hatchery Road and the Beltline slow go in both directions right now, so keep that in mind. Average speeds of around 15 to 25 miles per hour from Verona Road through Park Street and closer to Rimrock Road. Westbound not looking too bad, but we are noticing those normal delays for an afternoon on the Beltline, University Ave eastbound to the interstate. That'll cost you a half hour with an average speed of around 30 miles per hour. And that is your first alert traffic update.
All right, thanks, Dave.
Ahead on News 3 Now at 5, how community colleges and trade schools are sending young people into the workforce without a giant amount of debt. The story after a short break. Welcome back. The college admissions scandal turned a harsh spotlight on just how far families will go to get their children into college.
But it's also brought a fresh look at whether four-year colleges are the right pathway for all students. Kenneth Craig explores community colleges and their workforce programs.
Julian Linares is finishing the two-year industrial design program at LaGuardia Community College with a new set of skills.
They have taught me how to build a portfolio, how to analyze situations and think critically.
Full-time tuition here is less than $5,000 a year, a fraction of the cost compared to a four-year college.
We're in like one of our main assets here in the division, which is our fabrication lab.
Mark Healy is in charge of continuing education and says LaGuardia prepares students to walk out the door and into jobs in 70 different fields. That includes emergency technicians, plumbers, and computer scientists.
I think this is a great opportunity for folks to realize that community colleges now are sort of the backbone of many major cities.
Tom Brock researches community colleges at Columbia University. He says graduates of a four-year college have the greatest earning potential, but that's not the best option for all students.
Some students, they really want to get out into the workforce quickly. Maybe they have a family to support. They're not interested particularly in philosophy or in theory, but they want to learn skills that they can quickly put to use in the job market.
The Trump administration agrees and wants to end the stigma.
We must invest in job training and vocational education.
Linares graduates this month with his associate degree. He says he's found his passion in design and plans to continue his education before launching a career. Kenneth Craig, CBS News, Long Island City, New York.
Stay with us for a final check of the weather in just a moment.
Tonight on the CBS Evening News, we're in Normandy in France for the ceremonies marking the 75th anniversary of the Allied invasion that turned the tide of World War II. And we'll look at how CBS News brought the war live into American homes. All ahead tonight on the CBS Evening News.
That is going to be some unbelievable coverage, so try to tune in. It has been a big year for one Mississippi couple. After their youngest child left the nest, they celebrated with a photo shoot.
Amy and Randy English's last child, Haley Jones, moved out of their house recently, and clearly they are not too broken up about it. The session shot by Jones puts a spin on the typical new parent photos. It was her mom's idea, but Jones is hoping the pics will boost her budding photography career. As for what's next for her mom and dad, total freedom and viral stardom.
They're going to sit around and be staring at each other.
Yeah,
soon,
exactly.
what
I don't know about
do.
that.
We'll see.
It's harder than you think.
And they're still working for their daughter, though, right?
That's
Helping her
exactly.
business. All right, Dave, final check of the forecast.
I love the so sad and then just kidding right next to each other. I am not sad that we're not getting any rain over the next couple of days. I'm very thrilled, in fact, that we get to talk about dry weather sticking around. Temperatures in the low 80s this evening in Madison, some upper 70s in spots as well. Some patchy fog possible overnight, especially a little bit closer to the lakeshore. And then tomorrow, lake breeze kicks in with high pressure to our east. We get the sunshine back by the afternoon and temperatures in the upper 70s. Your 7 to 10 day forecast showing that dry weather sticking around into the weekend before storm chances return on Sunday and for early Monday.
All right, we'll have more updates in 30 minutes on News 3 Now at 6. Stay tuned now for the CBS Evening News.